Well, welcome back to Backyard Cars. And today I'm going to show you what happened with the intake. And I've got some sway bar end links and bushings and some shocks to throw on the old girl. And we'll try and figure out, the situation here. So, let's get to it. Well, we'll start, by I'm going to go back and show you what we did, with this intake. And and then we're going to move on to the shocks and sway bar. And then we'll swing back around and I'll show you where I'm at because, well, it's been fighting me and I'm not really sure why. Well, I came over to pull the plug out here so I could put my temp sensor in, and the old plug on the way out cracked the intake. So, that's our luck, Nothing goes smooth. So we're going to have to pull the intake off now. And, I mean, you're not fixing that. Not efficiently. So we're going to go buy a new intake. And nothing fancy. Just whatever they got at the parts store. And put an intake on it now. Which is kind of a bummer because this is a GM performance intake. Factory performance intake, so it's really the same thing as what I'm going to go buy at the store. No improvement. But we're not going to spend the money on a big fancy intake when we got, heads that aren't great and a cam that is probably stock. So we're just going to put the Performer EPS on here. And the only thing is it's going to be shiny. So that's useless. But, I mean, what are we going to do? It is what it is. Now we're stuck like that. So I guess I'm gonna pause this one out and start tearing this down. I got a bunch of parts, gaskets and everything ordered up, and it all won't be here till like 3 o'clock. So that's my luck. You're trying to do one thing and multiple things else happen. We got the fresh radiator in, and the intake said, "Hey, change me too." Why? But okay. There's a couple benefits. We're gonna be able to clean up that water neck, which is ugly. And this was an old EGR valve setup that I, been cutting a can and sticking in there to keep the EGR. The new intake will have no EGR, so we'll be able to, solve that issue. And like I said, it'll it'll be a fancy, good-looking intake. And the EPS is set up for the square bore, so we'll do, the square bore, so we'll do away with the spread bore, square bore adapter, and it'll just be the intake. So there's one more benefit. But it's a headache. We got to pull everything apart now. So I'm going to go ahead and tear everything down, and we'll go from there. Alright guys, intake is off. I'll scan you through there. Not looking too bad. I mean, I've seen a lot worse, I've seen a lot of gum up inside here, but this is fairly clean. The ports for the cooling system though, front and rear, they look pretty nasty. Ain't much I can do fix on those, but we were leaking a couple spots there. I got to get something in and kind of clean up a little bit better. But I don't have parts yet. So I'm going to just clean this up real good right now, and when my parts come in, I'm going to go get them, and we'll bring you back when we... I really wish at this point, I wish I had a cam and new lifters and push rods and rockers, and I could just go ahead and, throw a cam in there and you know, pull off the water pump, obviously. Do the rest of the little bit here in the front. And I mean, you're halfway here to putting a cam in it pretty much, so. I really wish I could do that right now, but you know, it's just not in the cards for this old motor. So we'll go ahead and clean it up and we'll just keep slowly plugging away. Alright guys, after a minor detour, we're right back where we left off before the intake ordeal. But now we got a new intake in there, and you know, it's new. That's all I can say about that. But it looks a little better, right? I guess. I'm gonna give you a little tip here. I know I didn't film putting it in because the GoPro, the battery died on me and I had to charge it. So I just continued on because I'm on limited time. But these come in your intake gasket kit. Do yourself a favor and just throw those away. And get you some RVT and run you a 3/8 bead across the back and the front. I said that backwards. The back and the front. Now all the way across. Just don't even worry about them little they swell and then they leak and they don't sit right. They're a pain. They're more of a headache than they're worth. Just run the bead of RVT across the two. Nice little great wall of 3/8 bead crossed and squish her down. You know what I'm saying? Save yourself some headache. So it's all back together now. What had happened was I cracked the old intake right here, trying to pull that plugged off heater core knob out to stick the temp sensor in. So we were forced to buy this intake and stick it on there. You know, it is what it is. It made it look fancy, but didn't really gain me much over that factory performance aluminum intake. But now there's a vacuum leak maybe. I got a random miss going on. And I've pulled this intake off and checked the gaskets, and everything was good, and I put it back on and correctly again, and no change. So, you know, we're gonna figure it out. But I've even sprayed WD down each side of the intake and filled up those little runners there, and there's no leak up top. Not saying there isn't one on the inside, but no leak up top. But that's where we're at right now. And before we go getting everything, I'm gonna go ahead. We're gonna do the shocks, and I've already got one side done, and I pulled the other side out because you know I don't waste no time. So you probably can't see nothing but the shiny piece there. But anyhow, that one's installed. Here's the old ones, and you know, like everything, they were done. They'd seen their better day. Probably were factory units. And guys, like I showed you before, you know, you shouldn't be able to just move that thing like that. You know what I mean? When you push it down, it should slowly make its way back out. It shouldn't just stay down. You shouldn't just be able to move it freely. This one here was in better shape, but still not great, you know? And when you're doing these, you know, you go to take this nut off. Of course, the whole shaft spins, so you throw some vice grips up here on the top piece or whatever you got to hold it, and then spin that nut, and it'll come out. And on the bottom down here, GM put little clips on the A-arms, and these go through there, and of course those clips will probably break too, so be prepared for new clips. You know what I'm saying? And all that good stuff. And you know me, they're the Monroes, but they were the, you know, cheapest of the Monroes, and they're good, you know, brand new. I can't even move that without putting any force on it. You know what I'm saying? So that's perfect. And I'll set you up now. We'll try and slide the new one in there and get all that done. You know what I mean? All right, get your bushing on. And notice on these you got this curved little lip dealy here, and on the back side there's a bunch. This goes down like that, so your little cutout fits your frame rail. You know what I'm saying? And the reverse on the top one. The little piece goes down so it fits the frame rail. And the side with the little doohickeys, well, it goes up on the top once you got it in there. So you can, pinch it together correctly. And of course, you gotta have it jacked up in order to get the dang shocks in there. If it ain't jacked up, you ain't gonna be able to swing them in. Basically. And then just wiggle it up there, make sure you're fitting in your holes. You know what I'm saying? And I'm reaching up around the frame rail to put the top piece on. Because that's the easiest way, or you gotta have another person up there to put your bushing and nut. And I'm all by myself, so. Because every time I start working on the car, everybody takes off, they hide. They say, oh man, he's gonna want me to do something. So, the top's in there. I'm having to grab my wrenches for nothing. Got nuts and bolts here. Oh. Well, it was right behind me. Okay, don't tell nobody. I did have it in the right spot. Well, what in the Lord? What? I don't understand. Oh, it goes right in without it. Okay, so why can't we just go right in with it? It require a little bit of pressure and twisting, huh? I don't understand. She's just not wanting to find her hole. There we go. Had to jam her in there a bit. And the other one is the aftermarket clip. Oh, well, that just went right in. Great. You never find the ones with the nuts and bolts. So they make the machined. Alright, my neighbor's cutting his grass now. That's great. Nothing better. A little grass cutting in the background, huh? I'm not very hip on these machined ones. They don't seem very stout. So that's it. Shock is in. Let's get up to the top side, tighten that nut down. And it's simple. Don't crank this down until it stops. Just get it snug. That's all you got to do. You crank it down until it stops, and then you squish your grommets so flat that they just tear. So what I like to do is just hold the center of the ratchet. You know what I'm saying? And turn it until it snugs up. Then come out here and grab you about a half turn. And that should be good. We didn't squish them flat, you know, just snugged it up good. And, well, the shocks are done. That was 5 minutes, and 5 minutes, and 5 minutes out, so 20 minutes and you're done. So let's set up now and let's get this. I'm going to drop it back on the ground. We'll get the sway bar out. Some of you may wonder why leave it on the ground to do the sway bar? And well, I want to try and show you here if I can. But right up here, the sway bar end link, well, it touches the ball joint castle nut while you got it jacked up like this. You know, everything's flexed down, and look how bad that bushing is. Anyhow, everything's flexed down, so this all touches. But when you set it down on the ground, well, everything sits level, and none of this touches, and you can get it in and out real easy. Now I'm going to tell you that this is probably the wrong link, or maybe they're worn and cranked down on something isn't right, because that shouldn't quite touch there, but it should get close enough where you can't really get it apart jacked up like this. So it's best to leave it on the ground, you know, while you're doing that. Hopefully you can see all that. Let's see what kind of flex we got now with the new shocks. What kind of bounce is going on? Well, that feels much better. Who knows? I don't know. I don't know until we drive it, I guess. So now, let's try and get up here, take a peek at what we're doing. We gotta get this bracket off right here, and then our sway bar links. And we'll try and get back in there and look at them sway bar links again real quick. And you can see all the distance that we got. Now we got plenty of room here to get all this disconnected. I know I don't have my light up in here, so it's probably hard to see it, but Yahtzee right there. Yeah. Let me grab some tools real quick and a light. Alright, we sprayed that with WD, so it should turn off a little bit easier. We got our wrench up top and a socket down here on the bottom. And we're going to see about getting it off. Now if you got a impact, it's probably come off much easier. But I don't have enough room to get my impact in. So I bet there's going to be boogered up threads. So it's probably going to fight me a little bit. And it's hard to wrench on this and film, so bear with me, guys. Bear with me. I mean, you get the picture. Shoulder workout. Whew, almost. Only 10 more feet to go. Alright, sway bar end links are removed off of each side. So now we're just free wobbling. So we're going to come now, and I loosen these, but right there, get both of these brackets off of each side, and we'll be ready to, you know, continue on. Now, there's a whole lot of wrench twisting on them end links. And once I was missing the washer. I guess if you don't have it, just Put it back together with what you got, huh? Don't bother searching for it. Just be happy you had 3 crush washers there. Might be why we had premature failure. This is what I'm talking about. You're here for a month doing this stuff. That's one down. The other side will be out. And then we'll examine. Alright, well, here's our new end link. And if we line it up, well, it's just a little bit shorter than the old one. Just a hair bit. I imagine these were kind of wore out. And we got all of our... This side didn't have one. The passenger side did, but we're missing a washer right here on this one. So, but it is a little bit shorter, which is good, because then maybe we got enough to clearance and we don't hit that bracket. You know what I'm saying? And our sway bar's out, and here's the bushing and our new bushing. So we'll have to pop these off, and they'll just snap right down. And we're going to take and, you know how we do. We're going to wire wheel the, yeah, there's the factory bushings there, huh? We're going to wire wheel the control arm, or the sway bar, and kind of jazz it up a little bit. Some paint, rust reformer, mainly. Nope. It's a little worn, huh? Well, this seems a little bit fatter, huh? Oh well, you know, you never get anything that's perfect when you're doing these old cars, so that looks like it's gonna walk around a bit. I don't know. Maybe by the time it jams in there tight. I mean, that joker's pretty tall. Maybe it crushes down, kind of fills that gap, maybe. I don't know. We'll find out. Because, well, these were shot. Alright, well, let's get the wire wheel on this and painting it up. See where we're at. Oh, here we go. So we got it all wire brushed and painted. It's looking much better. Got our bushings and brackets attached here. Not attached, but on it. We got to set it up in here and you know, start bolting it back together. We'll get these tightened up snug. Then we'll move it around, get the sway bar end links in, and you know, continue on the process. Location. Not messing anything up. Hanging in purpose. All right, let's get those sway bar end links in. Alright, so Bushing. Nope, wrong way. Bushing goes down, and this sleeve, then another cone and washer and sleeve, and then that should go through there. I probably gotta swing it back towards me a bit. Then the other bushing, cone washer. And where's the nut? There we go. Alright, there's one. I think the sway bar's got to come this way just a hair, but I'm gonna get the other one lined up. Get the other one in just like that, and then we'll get to adjusting the, making sure that we're straight up, because you can see it's at a little bit of an angle. So we get the other one in, and then we'll judge. We'll kind of kick them back and forth, kick the sway bar back and forth until it lines up correctly. So let me get the other one in, and we'll be right back here. Alright, as you can see, we got it more straight up and down. Now we're just going to snug it up nice and quaint. Gotta get it in there. Till we got bushing mesh, right? Getting close. Maybe I just let this bottom one rotate around, and then we can just catch it here. And what we're looking for is just bushing mesh. Now that we got it seated together, it's actually looking pretty good. I think we'll leave that. We'll hit the other side. Right, that looks pretty good. We hit the other side, snug it up, then we'll bounce on the car a little bit, kind of make the sway bar settle where it's going to settle. Then we'll tighten up the sway bar links off the frame, and we should be good. Alright, we got the other side done. A little bouncy bounce. Looks pretty good. Let's see, how does that look? I think I'm happy with that. New shocks, new sway bars. Let's go ahead and get this mount on both sides snugged up now. Yeah, I tell you, I need to invest in an electric ratchet. Pneumatic is just done. Alright, that's it, man. Tighten. We're looking good back here. It's coming around, you know. Now, I'm going to finish tightening the other one, and we're going to take a quick peek at the intake and see if we can't, I'll show you what it's doing and, you know, see if we can't address that. Probably not. So, let's investigate this. I got a little trick I'm going to try. Who knows if it'll work, but we're going to try a little trick. As well, it is what it is. Now listen, I'm going to say this up front. She is advanced right now. 36 degrees all in, and I think like 20 degrees is the base start. So when I go to cranking on her, don't go freaking out. Don't say, oh my God, it's too advanced. Because I know. But let's listen real quick. Let's go around and listen to the rear. I don't know if you can hear that. It never sputtered like that till I swapped the intake. So, fellers, right now I know you're saying vacuum leak, and I would agree. But we're not vacuum leaking here, and we're not vacuum leaking from the modulator. Check those. I sprayed WD down these valleys here and filled them, and well, it don't go nowhere. So the only thing we can think is that it's vacuum leaking off the bottom inside the oil galley there. And I think there's a way to check that. A little trick I believe an old timer taught me things back in the day. But I think if we pull both these breathers off, tape one up, and then put our vacuum gauge up here, tape it off real good, and then fire it up, we should have positive crankcase pressure. And if we don't, if it, you know, is negative 1 pound or so, then well, we're under vacuum in there, right? And voila, that's our problem. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm gambling. I'm checking all my P's and Q's apparently. I don't know. I don't rightfully know. Anywho, that's where we're at. Let me go ahead and get my thingamabob all hooked up and we'll go from there. Alright, we're all hooked up. Let's fire it back up. I don't know how long we gotta let it run for, but I don't see any pressure. I don't see a vacuum, but I don't see pressure. Maybe a half pound of pressure. It's definitely not under vacuum. Definitely not under vacuum, and we can get it up to almost 1. I don't even know the measurements, fellas. 1 PSI. I'm gonna call that normal. Could be wrong. There's no pressure though. I don't know how long we're supposed to let that run. I'm not, you know. I'm not versed with this technique. I just remember an old timer telling me you can check for vacuum leaks by plugging the PCV valves and throwing your gauge on there. But you should have positive crankcase pressure, hence the PCV valve, you know, helping to release that pressure, right? I don't know. I'm just saying. You go down into the comments and tell me, you know, hey, you gotta let it run for 15 minutes, or I don't know. I'm lost here. I've never ran into this issue. I'm gonna throw the vacuum gauge on the carb and see what kind of manifold vacuum we got right now. We should have 22, 20. I don't know. What do you think? Manifold vacuum? Got a little blow by. We got a little blow by happening. So I would think if there was an intake manifold leak on the inside, you wouldn't be seeing the blow by, you know, coming out like that. It would be shooting, you know, it would be a suction, you know what I'm saying? So 22 pounds, I don't know how much, I mean, can't be a manifold vacuum leak, right? I don't know. I don't know. That's where I'm at. Again, I mean, when I swapped the intake, I just popped the coil or the cap, left the wires on it, flipped it upside, and, you know, zip tied it up here. Didn't stretch nothing or mess nothing up. Had a 600 Edelbrock on it, but after I did put it all back together and it was stumbling, I thought, well, maybe the carb got some trash in it. So rather than tear it apart and clean it real quick, I went and, you know, I had just rebuilt this 750, you know, that I took off of patches, and so I threw it on here. Same issue. And I changed cap, rotor button, and coil. I swapped it with another one just to be sure, you know, something in there didn't go wrong. Same issue. So I just put this stuff back on, but I've kind of went through everything and I don't know what is causing that idle stumble. But I tell you, you give her the onions on the street, you just, any type of throttle under load and there is no miss. It just goes. Only at idle or holding that, maintaining that cruising speed, you know, where you're barely on the throttle, you'll hear that miss. But under load, it's just every cylinder hits and she's on the money. And, you know, it could be a lot of different things that you could say, but it didn't do this until we put this intake on. And I think I said this already. I already pulled the intake off and inspected the gaskets. I used Felpro when I did it the first time. So I thought, well, maybe I did. Maybe something slipped, you know. And I'm not going to say I'm perfect. So I took it all apart, and sure enough, it was good. And I put it back together. Exact same issue. This time I used the Edelbrock recommended gaskets. And, yeah, well, we're in the same boat. So, I don't know. Part of me says let's pull the intake back off again and just double check. I mean, could we have gotten a defective intake? What are the chances that the intake is defective? I guess I could straight edge it, take everything off, take the gaskets off, set it in there. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I might be overthinking it. If you know better than me, let a fella know. Because I'm scratching my head on this. Just scratching my head. I mean, I never claimed to be a world class engine guy, but I've never come across this issue. The stumble at idle. So, I don't know. Well, I gotta keep digging into the mess. But I assure you I'm gonna find it. It's probably with the intake. I mean, if I was a gambling man, and I'm not, that's what I put my money on. Thanks for watching. We're gonna end it here. Maybe you should go down and like and subscribe. And we'll see you next time when we get on patches, the K10.